Okay, I want to show you yet another way to copy files and back and forth between our RTEMS virtual disk. We'll use some of the networking facilities that FreeDOS has available. So let's start up our FreeDOS machine. A couple different things we could do. We could use the wget facility from FreeDOS to pull copies of files from a server out on the internet into our DOS machine. I haven't had much luck getting wget to work as a FreeDOS client. So the method I'm going to show you is to actually set up an FTP server on DOS, and then we'll use an FTP client on our host machine to copy files back and forth to the virtual machine. So again, previously I used fdimples to install some of the networking utilities that we need, in particular FDNet, mtcp, and then I also installed wget, although that's not necessary. So tab, cancel out of this. So we've got the software installed. I need to set up a configuration file for the FTP server, so I cd into the fdos directory. If I get a directory listing, you'll see that I've got an mtcp config file that's created for me automatically when I boot the machine, and it's got my IP address of this virtual machine. I need a more extensive configuration file. There's an example one in the mtcp directory, so it's \mtcp /sample.config cfg, and then I'm going to copy that right over my mtcp.config file, and it asks me if I want to overwrite it, and just Y for yes, and then now I edit it. I only have to change a couple of lines, so scroll down to where it says FTP server parameters, and I'm only going to uncomment these two lines, the FTP password file. I'm going to I already have one in my mtcp directory, although I'll edit it, and then I'm also going to put the FTP server log in the mtpc directory as well instead of the root directory. So Alt Fs, Alt F, exit, and now I need to edit, I need to edit the password file that the server will use, which is over in the mtpc directory, and that's ftppass.txt. Just to keep things really simple, I'm going to allow a username of DOS user with a password of DOS user, and let's see, I think the none here means that the user can access any drive with no, so there's no sandbox directory, and then the upload directory, and then permissions are all. So this will kind of open up everything to the DOS user. And then I need to actually comment out the other three lines that are present in this file. So I've only got one line that's left. It's my DOS user line that's left with the user that's left uncommented. So I'm going to go ahead and just reboot into DOS here. Okay. And now what I can do, actually I have to set up my virtual machine first. So let me halt the virtual machine, and let me halt FreeDOS. What I need to do on my virtual machine is I'm using the simplest type of networking with VirtualBox, and it's the default type, and it uses NAT, or network address translation, which is fine for what I want to do. but one of the consequences of NAT is it kind of isolates the virtual machine from the internet at large. And so I need to actually, kind of make a hole in the VirtualBox firewall to be able to get to the FTP server running under FreeDOS. So, click on the advanced here under the network, and then port forwarding, and then on this plus icon, and rule 1 is FTP server is a fine name, and then the host IP is 127.0.0.1. That's actually represents a local networking IP address on my host machine, not the VirtualBox machine, but the guest machine. And then for the host IP, I'm going to use 2121. The default, the host port, I'm going to use 2121. FTP servers actually listen on port 21. I think port 21 is supposed to be a privileged port, or if you're already running an FTP server on your host machine, you probably want to use another port. This can actually be anything, but I'm just going to use 2121 because it's easy to remember. And then the guest IP, I can leave that blank, but I want to connect to port 21. That's the FTP server port. So that's where my FTP server running on FreeDOS will be listening on that port. So what I connect my client to is my local host in 2121, but it will be actually connected to the FTP server listening on port 1 on the virtual machine. So I think that's all I have to do. So okay, let me start up FreeDOS. Okay, add a command prompt, and then type FTP server. I think I'll have to actually give the complete path, mtcp FTP server. There we go. And it's in listening mode now, and it says press Control C or Alt X to end the server. So I've got the FTP server listening on FreeDOS. Now I need to start up an FTP client on my host machine. So I'm using WinSCP here. I've also used FileZilla, which works fine. I'm going to create a new connection now, and so new site. The protocol is actually FTP, which is not recommended because it lacks security. But it's fine for what we're doing on this little private network. So I want to connect to my local host, and then port number 2121. Again, this will actually be connect to the FTP server, and then the username is DOS user, as is the password. Although I think it may prompt me again for the password, and then I'm going to click on save. So I'm going to change the site name to FreeDOS. I'm going to go ahead and click Save Password just to save myself some typing every time. And click OK. And one other thing, let's see. I need to go into the Advanced tab, and for FTP here, uncheck passive mode. It needs to actually be, the FTP client needs to actually use active mode to connect with the FreeDOS FTP server. So save that again. So I think we're all set. And then now log in. So this is my host directory over here on the left. You see I'm in my users AR63. Let me go into my MSys64 RTEMS directory. And then here I see my CD and E drives on my FreeDOS machine. So if I click on drive E, you'll see the hello.exe I had there before. It's a simple matter of dragging and dropping to copy a file from my host drive over to, in this case, my C drive. Normally, I'm going to delete it. Okay. Normally, we'll actually be copying files back and forth to our D drive, which is our RTEMS drive. And then, when I'm done, I can just right-click up here and say disconnect. Let's take a look at what's going on over in the FreeDOS window. You'll see that there's a notification here that DOS user signed in and started a transfer and then deleted the file, all things that I did before. Now let me actually disconnect from the FTP server and then actually close down. You'll see I get this message that the client disconnected from the FreeDOS server, and then I can just hit Control-C to actually shut down the FTP server. So this is another way to transfer files back and forth between our host machine and our virtual disk. Again, I don't necessarily recommend this method. I find using the mtools method is a lot more convenient, but it's available if you want or need to use it.